Welcome to the Quick Talk Podcast with Joshua Latimer, where we discuss business, life, family, faith, struggle, fire, pain, and ultimately winning.
It's time to take massive action. Look, I can't work harder on your life or business than you do. It's ultimately all on you.
You know, God created all the food the birds would ever need, but he doesn't put it in their nest. You've got to go get it.
10 out of 10 people die. So how about doing something today that actually matters while you still can? Hey, my friends, welcome back to the Quick Talk Podcast. I'm joined on the line by a really respected industry veteran in the pressure washing space named Brian Sauls. Brian built a rather large company, but he has an interesting take on the thing he's going to be presenting at the huge convention. And I want you to hear it from his words. He had built this company and found himself wondering, why was he pushing so hard? Why was he so stressed? Why was he continuously reaching for more and more and more without really having any clarity on who he was trying to impress in the first place? I think a lot of us can relate to this. I can definitely relate to the idea of growing for growth's sake to impress people that you don't even like, that you don't even know. Like, you can get caught up in this negative inertia. And it's going to be amazing. He's going to be teaching about, how to deal with the ups and downs in business and life, really by sharing his story, which I think is super on point. You're not going to hear this stuff at other types of events. That's why the huge convention is so unique. Brian, thanks so much for hopping on for a few minutes.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Josh. I really appreciate it. The convention has been a huge catalyst for a lot of things in my life, and obviously has been nothing but super positive. Not only what I've learned at the convention, but the friendships and the mentorships that I've been able to find myself in have just been unbelievable. I mean, if you're in our industry, there's really no excuse for you to miss it.
Yeah, and I actually do. I remember meeting you because you're like this giant bodybuilder looking guy that's like maybe 4 or 5 years ago in Nashville, like briefly meeting you. And your company was a lot smaller at that time, right? And what kind of happened between back when I first met you and when you kind of hit the stress threshold and decided to make some changes?
Well, when we first started, and a lot of people, they do recognize me because there's not a lot of guys walking around with one leg. So if you've ever seen me, getting around with my prosthetic leg, I'm that guy. So I was in a pretty bad car accident back in 2009. And one thing led to another. I worked in the industrial space. I worked for a biodiesel operation. We manufactured biodiesel fuel out of various different oils and things like that back when green energy was really popular. And so anyhow, I was in a pretty rough car wreck that led to me losing my left leg below the knee. So after I got back going and was physically where I could, we thought for some reason it would be a good idea to start a window cleaning and pressure washing business, because stress from that job led me to want to do something on my own. So my brother and I started Sunco in 2010, and probably around the time of the first convention, which was a huge eye opener. I remember meeting you at your booth. You were just I think in the early phases of launching your company, with the Sin Gym and all that. And I remember us talking, and we had done a $50,000 a month, which, keep in mind, was more than we did the whole first year we were in business. So
that is a significant milestone, for sure.
So it was huge, and it was very refreshing because I remember us going back and forth and talking about what a big milestone that was. So basically, it was eye-opening, the experience, meeting everyone there, and then realizing, we could take this thing pretty much as far as we wanted to. And I've always kind of had this feeling in me. I guess we grew up, we my parents and everything, we never really just had tons of money. So it was always just seemed like a very worthy goal to make as much money as possible. What I didn't realize is that comes with a lot of cost. For me personally, I'm just not geared that way, I guess. I never thought that I would reach some certain milestones in my life and then realize that maybe they weren't necessarily what I was looking for. So through the convention and learning, reading lots and lots on the forums back before Facebook pretty much destroyed all that pleasant learning environment, we reached a point in my company where I had to look around and see that I was not happy. I was burned out. The business was doing better than ever, and I pretty much hated every second of it. So yeah, I was very fortunate around that time to start a friendship with Chris from Win the Clean Resource, and he recommended a book to me, Ego is the Enemy. So if you haven't ever read it, I would greatly recommend that you check it out. So I started reading this book, and it basically opened my eyes to realize that my ego had been controlling basically every move I had made since I had started the business. And it only was fueled even more by seeing other people that were super successful in our industry. And once I started seeing them and realizing, the potential of a company, that was good and bad, because it made me realize you could go as far as you wanted to with this company. A lot of people don't realize the financials that can be obtained that people in our industry do, run multi-million-dollar companies. It's a small percentage, but to me, it was always, it was great to see and motivational, but at the same time, it also made me feel like I wasn't worthy. Why couldn't I achieve that same level of success that my peers were achieving? And so that really maybe subconsciously started to eat at me. And I started to, like you said, wanted to grow for growth's sake. I wanted to have more trucks. I wanted to have more employees. And to the point where, I would market huge, we were up to close to 20% one year of marketing percentages, just because I wanted to see how far we could take it. But through a couple of events, some very close relatives of mine passing away, I have been dealing with some back issues. I had to have back surgery. And I just, I woke up one day and I just wanted to walk out of the place and literally do anything else besides run my company anymore. And I can guarantee you that a lot of people that have owned any business have felt the same way. It's not something that's talked about a lot. Things that have helped me and things that I'm going to be talking about at the convention is just a lot about perception. How do you perceive what you're doing? Why are you doing it? One of the big problems for me was I never had a set revenue goal for my company. So if there's no number that you're trying to hit, then you're never going to be happy, because you're never going to do good enough. So it was just, perceiving why I wanted to have so many trucks so I could impress people that I don't know, or that may be on Facebook, or I may run into one time a year. Just a whole bunch of silly stuff that it really opened a whole doorway of me just kind of exploring why I'm doing the things I'm doing. And what was really kind of the sobering thing about it all was I'm making more money than I ever thought possible with the business. It had grown to a point that I never even imagined. I do not have a strong business background I came from. We didn't start with a lot of money to get the company going. So, I didn't even know, if you would ask me when we started, if it would have made it 5 years, I probably would have said no. It was just a stepping stone until I could figure out what I wanted to do. But it quickly just consumed my whole life, to the point where, you may be in the office for 12 hours a day, but you never leave it. It just controlled my thoughts 24 hours a day. I wasn't pleasant to be around, a lot of the times, very short fused. And basically, Thad reached out and asked if I would be interested in sharing some of the ways that I've kind of found my path, looking for a way to have everything one cohesive unit: my life, my business, my happiness, my health. Whereas before, the only thing that drove me was a number. And, I realize now it's just, that's not important to me anymore. I have my wife and my little girl, and we live a nice life, and sometimes that's enough, man. Sometimes it's enough just to be content and happy. You don't have to. You don't
I
have to.
think I think you're going to strike a major vein, and I think this is just fascinating. I think it's amazing. I think it's awesome that you're willing to share it, because I know for a fact, people are on Facebook all day comparing themselves to other people, and people, you don't see the whole story. And even with my companies and how hard it's been to build my software company and my service company before that, like it's really hard and stressful, and we don't spend a lot of time talking about that. It's like a popularity contest for no reason, and it's dumb, and it makes us a slave to the thing that's meant to serve us, which is our business.
It really is, man.
I think,
and if you're not, if you don't feel like you need anything, then you don't have to be a slave to anybody or anything. If you don't feel like you have to have that money that you perceive that's going to change anything, and I'm not saying all this to try to encourage people to make less money. That's not my goal at all. It's a necessary evil is how I look at it now. It's just you can let what all comes along with it just totally consume you and blind you to the real things in life. And I think we can both agree that it's not the bottom line for your business that's going to make you happy at the end of the day.
It is, man. I mean, you're just on point. This is gold. And the really funny part is, before I hit record, you were telling me more or less you've cut your company size in half on purpose, and you're still making the same amount of money, which is funny though, because there's less stress, there's less headache, you're in more control, you can get more aggressive on your pricing. There's so many benefits to the way that you've, pushed reset in your personal life to begin to build a business that serves your family rather than it consuming your life and being this nightmare.
Yeah, I just didn't, I didn't see a way out of it, the path I was on. So I knew something had to change. And when Thad reached out to me, I was hesitant to even, agree. I was very gracious that he would even think of me. I went out to Vegas for his international cleaning expo, and I taught a direct mail class. So I figured he wanted something kind of in the same vein. And I told him, I'd really be interested in trying to teach a class about helping people figure out how to keep their sanity and be happy, be a happy individual to be around while you're dealing with all the stress, because there's nothing I can tell anybody that's going to make that stress go away. I mean, that's just part of owning any business. It's amplified when owning a service business, and I'm a competitive person. So it's something I just needed to tone down. And in fact, we're on pace to have, be right there with our best year ever, which was last year. We cut our company by about half on purpose. And I personally will see about a 35% increase in my actual income. So
isn't that funny? And your wife will be happier to be around you. You play with your kid more. You're happier. And
another thing is, my wife, Sheena, has been able to come in, and now she runs the office for us. So now we have even more family time together. She's a labor and delivery nurse. And, when we made these changes and we cut back some stuff, there was an opportunity that she wanted to come in, and it's been a blessing.
That's awesome. Well, good for you, and thanks for sharing. I mean, this is going to be cool. And last question I have for you, and I'll let you go, is what do you say to the person who's on the fence of if they should even come to the huge convention? They're not sure if it's worth it. They got to take a few days off work. They're kind of on the fence. What would you say to them to push them over the edge and get their butt in a car and get down to Atlanta?
Well, I can tell you from going to the first one and being at every one since. When we went to the first one, I was on the fence too. And, I didn't have just tons of money falling out of my pocket to just pick up and go to Nashville, I think it was, for the first one. But seeing all the successful people there and becoming friends with people that I literally just have learned so much from just by following along online and picking up little tidbits, the interaction I've had it's just been amazing. If the classes aren't enough, the actual people that you meet and the one good thing that Facebook does allow is for you to meet other people that are going through the exact same thing you are. And you can talk to them on Facebook. And when you actually meet, sit down and spend some time with them, and then you have that bond, and then you can reach out and you have those people there. You feel like you build a little team around yourself, because it takes a whole lot of people, man, to make any company successful. And you're not going to do it on your own. You got to have people that you can reach out. And it's run by some of the greatest dudes in the business. It's really a testament to Thad and Chris and everybody that's involved with it. They've really taken it and made it something special. The vendors, if you're a tool nerd like me, all the new latest gadgets are there. Usually you can get them for a lot cheaper than you normally could. All kind of specials going on. And the speakers they brought in, they've leveled it up every year. It just gets better and better. So you just can't miss it. If you're serious about it, you just need to drop a couple bucks and go to the thing.
Absolutely. I agree, Brian. Can't wait to see you and shake your hand. And also, everybody that's listening, I want to shake your hand and say hi. And come hang out in Atlanta in August. Go to thehugeconvention.com. Brian, thank you so much for your time, my friend.
Thank you, Josh. Really appreciate it.
Hey, my friends, welcome to the Quick Talk Podcast. Josh here. I'm joined on the line by Michael Hinderliter. He is an amazing guy who's built several multi-million-dollar businesses, and he's going to be presenting and teaching you epic, amazing gold nuggets at the Huge Convention in Atlanta this year. Can't wait to see him again. Michael's a great guy. He's become a buddy of mine. How are you, Michael? Thanks for spending a few minutes with us.
Yeah, I'm doing great. Thanks for asking.
Yeah, so you are some sort of like legend in the industry, and you've built these huge beasts, and now you have a supply and like distribution company that's huge, and you have a service company that's huge. I think you have over 100 employees. And how did all that happen? Give us a little brief history lesson on how you did all this stuff, Michael.
Certainly. I think that part of it was by default, since I kind of grew up in the business. My dad was a distributor when I was in high school, and I worked for him on power wash equipment. And while I was still in high school, I started my truck washing business. And from there, I just grew it. And, I got into kitchen exhaust later, made that a separate business. And eventually I got to the point where I bought out his business. And, a lot of struggles and stuff along the way, too, doing that. And it's always been a learning experience, and it continues to be that.
Yeah, absolutely. And your company now is large. And I know that there's so many stories probably over the last several decades that you could take us down. But I know you're presenting on, how to grow from an owner operator to, 100 employees for them if they want. A lot of people never grow. A lot of people have businesses for 10 or 20 or 30 years and they get stuck. What are you going to be teaching as an overview kind of to help people get unstuck?
Certainly. I think one of the things that I've found as I've grown the business is, just managing people becomes a stronger priority, and how you deal with people, how you run the company, and being able to attract talent and encourage those people to grow within the company. And I think growing not just in a professional sense, but in a personal sense and level is just as important as it is within the office or the work environment. And that's what I want to talk about, is all those different levels of things that we apply, or that I've learned to apply over the years, and make people want to be part of that team. And so really what it comes down to is fostering a growth culture, and it's still a learning process for me.
Yeah, I think it is for all of us, but you're hitting the nail on the head, because the number one pain point everybody is griping about all the time is people. It's employees. That's by far the biggest struggle when people are trying to grow, and there's some sort of disconnect. And I think maybe we don't spend enough time looking at the culture, or even looking at ourselves as marketers for attracting talent and, making a real offer to people to have a career at your company. We just think we can go find labor jobs, and it's really not working that way these days. I don't know if it's a millennial thing or whatever, but there's so much chatter out there, and we talk about that stuff on this show a lot. And I think it's going to be amazing for people to connect with someone like you, who has such a large company and started small and has done all the things that you've done. What would you say to someone who's considering coming to the huge convention, but they're not sure, they need to be pushed over the edge a little bit. What's the value from your perspective?
I think the value is always going to be getting to meet others in your industry is a number one that I've always considered when you go to an event. And the huge convention is, to my knowledge, is one of the biggest events out there, especially for a contract cleaner. You're just not going to run into as many contract cleaners in one place at one time as you do when you go to the huge convention.
Right. Yeah, it's a pretty huge community, and sometimes it feels like you're on an island all by yourself fighting the good fight back in Podunkville, wherever you're from. And but there's other people just like you. There's weirdos. There's cleaning business weirdos all over, and they converge in Atlanta. It's going to be amazing. And I think everybody should show up and meet Michael. He is a stand-up guy. He's really well-respected and well-known in the industry. He's been doing this for a long time, and he's going to teach you how to go from an owner-operator to employing over 100 people and what things you should do, as your business grows and how important culture of growth is and what he means by that. He'll do a deep dive. It's a free session. You just got to show up in Atlanta. Michael, I appreciate you, and I appreciate you taking the time to say hi on the podcast today.
Yeah, you bet. And if you remember the last time you interviewed, you asked me one of my favorite quotes, and it still is, and it's still by Winston Churchill, which is never, never, never give up. Mm-hmm. And I was recently asked a question by a guy that just started in the industry, and he asked me for advice, and I obviously gave him that quote, but that leads into motivation. I'm going to talk about that in my presentation. And there's one more that I think is the next step beyond motivation. And I'll talk about that in my presentation when I do it there at the show.
I think it's awesome. I can't wait to shake your hand and see you. And everybody, get your butts in a ticket to the huge convention. Go to thehugeconvention.com and meet Michael, meet myself. Can't wait to meet all of the attendees. And I'm excited to see you in about a month and a half, Michael.
Yep, can't wait. Looking forward to it.
Hey, thanks for hanging out, friends. And from all of us here at the Quick Talk Podcast team, we hope you loved today's show. We hope that you were inspired to become a doer and not just a listener. Apply what you've heard today in your own business and watch things change for the better. Lastly, remember that all the money in the world can't save your soul. Seek first the kingdom of God, my friends. We'll see you next time.
For more information about the Quick Talk Podcast or Joshua's other businesses, visit our website, quicktalkpodcast.com. Have a blessed day.